What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, today is the day that Switch 2 pre-orders go live in the US after being delayed from that initial April 9th release, and it looks like things are off to a fast start, not only in like the US and other parts of the world, but certainly in Japan, to the point where Nintendo had to issue a bit of a warning when it comes to just overall stock for the Switch 2 in Japan, and we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Ghost of Yotei, as we did get that release date, and you know what? I think it makes sense, especially with GTA 6 looming right now, as to where they placed it. And, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we have another Game of the Year nominee, at least a potential one, based on the review scores, placing it as, honestly, one of the highest rated RPGs that we've ever seen. All of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or the link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with the PlayStation 5 and an update that people were very excited to see because it is bringing back something that people really enjoyed for that 30th anniversary. But first, though, let's take a look. This is over on PlayStation Blog. Now, there is another part of the update. Again, I know people are really excited for the 30th anniversary stuff coming back. However, they do mention audio focus that allows you to amplify audio. So I'm thinking maybe footsteps in Call of Duty as an example. But that way, if you have something maybe in a game that sounds a bit softer than everything else around it, this should let you, say, boost voices or high pitches or quiet sounds, something like that. Anyway, also, we have classic console designs. All right, so they say, during our 30th anniversary celebrations, we surprised our fans with a limited time selection of nostalgic customization features for the PS5 system UI to honor the 4 PlayStation consoles that paved the way for PS5. PlayStation, PS2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4. They say, due to overwhelmingly positive response from our community, we're happy to bring back the look and feel of the 4 console designs for players to customize the home screen on PS5. And I did run a poll just to see which one people were going to go with, and it's I think pretty expected anyway as to the one that got the most votes. But this update is rolling out globally in a phased approach starting today. So keep an eye out on, I guess, your settings tab there to see when those themes go live, so you can go back to the past with your PlayStation 5. Also, we do seem to have a release date that's leaked out for Madden 26, and I know it's not exactly something that a lot of people who are watching here are like really checking for, but it is interesting to keep an eye out for maybe that Switch 2 logo to pop up for EA, since, well, EA skipped the Switch completely with Madden, so this will be the first time they returned to this Nintendo system in quite a while. But this is actually posted up by D-Labs, and right now they are pointing towards August 14th. Now, there's also a deluxe edition that'll have the 3-day early access, because of course they will, but they're also saying it will be announced no later than April 25th, that being tomorrow, and I assume this is something that will be announced maybe during the NFL draft that's kicking off later on tonight. And go figure, it's going to be called, get ready for this, EA Sports Madden NFL 26. What a shocker. Anyway, just giving you a heads up. Keep an eye out, I guess, see if that Switch 2 logo pops up, because this is around when we start to expect third parties to really start making moves for that system, especially with EA and their yearly sports series like Madden. Oh, and I've been having a blast with Oblivion Remastered. It does border on that line of remaster versus remake. However, it seems like they've really try to keep things as close to the original as possible, so much so that they've left in what a lot of us are really dubbing as just Easter eggs in general, even though it's very clearly just like gaps that they had maybe in development when they put the game out. For example, this was left in, and it's actually the "let me do that one again" line that was just kind of left in there for an NPC, where it's very clear the voice actor recorded their line, stopped, they said, "let me do that again," and then they just read it again. But what's really funny about it is the NPC did have like the lip sync that was lined up with it and everything. It's just a fun thing. And again, the idea here with something like Oblivion Remastered is they're using Unreal Engine 5 to change up the visuals, more modernize that, and some gameplay elements. But for the most part, the actual like original Oblivion is still kind of running in the background. So it's just fun to see these sorts of Easter eggs, as I said, things that have lived in legend for like 19 years now, still being there. Awesome time though, outside of some performance issues, highly recommended, especially if you have Game Pass. But even outside of that, $50 for the game itself, along with the DLC from the original, absolutely worth it. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Nintendo Switch 2 that is off to a fast start, go figure, in Japan, but also just all across the world. Pre-orders we see are doing well, more so in some regions than others. I think in like Australia, you can still pre-order, but in other parts, like France, for example, they're having historic sales right now for the Switch 2, and it seems like Japan is certainly lined up to do that as well, especially since Nintendo had to put out a statement for this. So take a look. This is posted up over on their official account, and I did go ahead and translate some of the more important parts of it, because it's actually quite a long message that they posted. Anyway, at the top, they say, "This is Furukawa," just make sure everyone knows out there. "To deliver the Nintendo Switch 2 to all of you, we have been procuring a large number of components in advance and proceeding with production. On April 2nd, we announced the details of the Nintendo Switch 2 and began accepting applications for a lottery sale on the My Nintendo store. As a result, we received applications from an astonishing 2.2 million people in Japan alone. However, this far exceeded our prior expectations and greatly surpasses the number of Nintendo Switch 2 units we can deliver from the My Nintendo store on June 5th. Consequently, it is with great regret that we anticipate a significant number of customers will not be selected in tomorrow's lottery announcement on April 24th. In response to this demand, we are currently taking steps to further strengthen our production system. Furthermore, we are planning to produce and ship a substantial number of Switch 2 units moving forward. We sincerely apologize for the time it will take to fully meet your expectations and kindly ask for your understanding." So this is pretty much the video game version of the meme of suffering from success. So at this point in Japan, Nintendo has so many people that want this system, they just cannot possibly fulfill those orders. And think about it this way. With the My Nintendo store, there were prerequisites you had to meet just to get your name thrown in the hat. So one example is 50 hours of playtime on your Switch. You also had to, of course, have a Nintendo account with them. This isn't just someone just going on the website, just filling out their name and phone number or whatever. "Oh, okay, I'll throw my name in there and see if I can get pulled for it." You had to meet some roadblocks, get past checkpoints to just get your name in the drawing here. And that's how it works in Japan. They do the lottery system for the most part at retail or even just on websites like these. And coming off of the Switch now, if you look at the number that have sold in Japan, more than 30 million in Japan alone. Not shocking, technically, if you think about it that way, that 2.2 million would have already signed up for My Nintendo store just to get a shot at the Switch 2, or at least be able to buy it. Also, remember in Japan, there is just a cheaper version of the Switch 2, although it's relative. So from here, like outside the US looking at Japan, it looks very cheap. Although in Japan, where it's like, okay, you're just buying and selling everything with yen at that point, you're not going, "Oh, I have this much in US dollars, I'm gonna convert it over and now I'm gonna buy it." It's mostly there just trying to meet consumers in the middle in Japan because of how weak the yen is right now, but that system is region locked. So that is a very important thing to note. Otherwise, the region-free version of the Switch 2 is quite a bit more. Okay, it's more aligned with like the US pricing where it's about like $450 US dollars. So in that way, it probably makes sense that there would be so much demand here, maybe for that region-locked Switch 2 with the Japanese market. And I know there are a lot of people online who have said to boycott this launch, to not buy it, but here's the thing, we've been over this many, many times, over and over again, that typically, a lot of the louder voices online usually makes up a very small section of the market, especially when you deal with a brand like Nintendo, who's very, very strong right now. Coming off of the Switch, over 150 million systems selling, yeah, there's a good chance you're then going to transition into the Switch 2, even it being a more expensive system, more expensive starting point for the generation. You're probably going to have a good chunk of that user base come over in some degree and certainly sell out like immediately. Even if Nintendo shipped 6 million Switch 2 systems right off the bat, they're all selling out. And it's not even just, oh, okay, yeah, resellers and scalpers, but no, people are probably just going to play the system or buying it. And also you launch with your most popular game from the last decade plus with a sequel for Mario Kart. Yeah, you have a formula here, at least for success from launch, and then we'll see how they follow up with other releases in the first year. That's going to be a big thing, right? I know Donkey Kong's coming up. That's great. There's a Metroid Prime 4. There's Pokemon, Legends ZA. What else do they have when it comes to other big franchises like Animal Crossing or Splatoon or a big 3D Mario or the next Zelda? They have a lot they can do. It just depends on how they set this up over the next 2 to 3 years to keep that momentum going. But certainly right now, they got the momentum. Oh yeah, and just wait till Capcom shows up with a Monster Hunter game on the Switch 2 in Japan. Oh yeah, there's also that franchise called Pokemon. Yet it has a chance to get out of control, especially if they do also introduce a cheaper model in 2 to 3 years to kind of work out that lower end budget of the market. So again, strong debut here, it seems, for Nintendo in Japan, but it also shouldn't be that surprising. Next up, let's talk about Clair Obscur Expedition 33, as reviews dropped yesterday and immediately seemed to make its way to the top of the charts for many, many reviewers out there when it comes to the potential Game of the Year nominee for 2025. And I know we're still kind of early on. I mean, it's April. Like, there's still plenty of months ahead of us, another like 7 or so months before the cutoff for the Keeley Awards. But I gotta tell you, when you have these review scores coming out like this and it places you as one of the best rated RPGs even of all time, let alone this generation, yeah, there's a good chance you're going to be there at the end of the year. And Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has done it. We can see this posted up, though. This is over on Metacritic. It has been bouncing around a bit, I will say, but it seems to have settled right in that like 91, 92 area. And even right now on 55 PlayStation 5 reviews, it's sitting at 92. 12 Xbox Series reviews at a 93. And then 42 reviews on the PC at a 90. So, I mean, you can kind of see they're right around that 92 mark. And wow. I saw this. I've already been pretty excited for this game just based on the way that Sandfall Interactive has been discussing this game. Now, this is also their first game. This is their debut game right here at Clair Obscur Expedition 33 for Sandfall. So imagine that, the first game you've made as a newly formed studio, and it shows up and it's in the 90s. That is impressive stuff, especially, by the way, in a genre where a lot of their peers are trying to work away, it seems, from the turn-based RPG setup. They just said unabashedly, no, we're doing that. We're going to stick with the turn-based RPGs. We're actually going to work to, I don't know, maybe evolve them a bit, build on top of the kind of games we like. You hear Lost Odyssey getting thrown around. I'm immediately paying attention. So let's take a look at some of the review scores here. RPG Gamer gave it a 100, saying Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a journey that blasts the senses from beginning to end. The melancholic and bleak moments are balanced by the characters' perseverance, which makes their triumphs shine much brighter. There's a profound sense of style and substance that only expands as more of the world is uncovered. What results is a true work of art that ties its brilliant components together into a complete package, which is all inspiring to come from a freshman developer. Moving over to Game Informer, give it a 90, saying the adventure isn't overlong and you don't spend more time than necessary fighting. The world, art, and narrative are unique, but it makes me nostalgic for a game I remember from the past. It's as though developer Sandfall Interactive managed to make a classic RPG with only the good parts. I'm sad in a way to have concluded the journey, but the adventure to pursue the painteress will linger with me for some time. I also wanted to go to the other end of the spectrum here, look at the lowest reviews here, and the lowest review score is an 80. So here's Guardian saying, boasting a unique world, challenging combat, and great writing, this RPG has a lot going for it, if only it didn't revel in its own mysteriousness so much. Siliconera also gave it an 80, saying, I love the story it told and the characters I encountered. I just feel like some design choices keep it from being absolutely perfect. I'd have loved more incentives to really explore levels and maps that would make it easier to get around and find secrets. I will say I did start looking at some of the video reviews for it, and then they were kind of talking about the story, some events. I immediately turned it off. I'm sold on the game, although it's also going on Game Pass. I think I'm going to get this game on the PS5 as well. So I'm going to have it there, Game Pass, Xbox Play Anywhere. I'll check it out on like the ROG Ally X, and of course playing it on the Xbox Series, maybe also on PC. Just let my save file bounce around from all those platforms. I think I'm going to buy it physically though on the PlayStation 5 and load it up on the PS5 Pro to see how it does. I'm very excited to see a game do this well with reviewers while still staying as true as they can to a more traditional turn-based RPG. And again, the way that they talked about it, relating it to things like Lost Odyssey or some of those RPGs that we had back in the late 90s throughout the 2000s, it was really cool to hear some of their inspirations, and it immediately put the game on my radar. So seeing it now sitting at a 92 on Metacritic and having people just gushing about it online, I'm sold. I'm in. And technically it's out now. I would have started downloading it and playing it actually at midnight. This is one of those few games where I'm waiting. While I'm also going to do the Switch 2 pre-orders, I'm sitting there waiting for the clock to tick down to midnight so I can start up the journey. I didn't go out to a midnight release at a store to pick it up because I don't think anyone was doing it, but I'll be playing it at midnight. Really, really cool stuff. Excited to jump into Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33. It is on Game Pass, so if you have it, give it a look, see what you think. I know Oblivion kind of took over the headlines, but this seems to be a game that does still need that spotlight for being original while also staying true to some of the more traditional RPG aspects. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Ghost of Yotei because we have a release date for it. And I mentioned before, I think it makes sense just based on them trying to place it with GTA 6 looming out there in the background right now. But let's actually take a look. This is the new trailer they released for it as well. And they say, set 300 years after the critically acclaimed Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yotei is standalone experience set in 1600s rural Japan. The story follows a haunted lone mercenary named Atsu. Thirsty for revenge, she travels through the beautiful, rugged landscapes of northern Japan, hunting those who killed her family many years earlier. Here's my issue with this, okay? So it very much sounds like what I just played with Assassin's Creed Shadows. Obviously, it's going to draw complete comparisons between the two. But I just went through a whole revenge tour in Assassin's Creed Shadows for like 60 hours, so here we go again, I guess. Anyway, it is coming out October 2nd, all right, and I think this makes sense. As I mentioned with GTA 6 out there somewhere, keep in mind this will be about a week after Borderlands 4 releases, and I guess Sony's figuring, while maybe they have some information on the release date for GTA 6, they're also probably thinking, you know what, I don't think they're going to release GTA 6 within a week of their other game, that being Take-Two and 2K. So it's probably a decent spot to drop it in there right at the beginning of October. They also have a couple different versions of the game. They have the standard that's coming in at $70. They have a digital deluxe edition that's coming in at $80. And then they have some big collector's edition that's coming in at $250. I mean, it looks quite intricate. Just keep in mind, it is going to be a digital version of the game, which tends to be the case since they can sell that same exact version to somebody who has a digital PS5 versus someone who has one with a disc drive. So I assume just in distribution and production, it just makes it way more streamlined for them. It does have the cool Ghost mask though, which that's kind of neat, I guess, again, for fans of just the Ghost franchise now. But I think I'll just go with the standard edition at $70, which I don't... Does hearing $70 for a new game now sound cheaper than it did before Mario Kart World got announced? I saw some of that going around online. I'm like, wow, it's really happened. $70 is being talked about as being cheap. People are excited to see 70 pop up, whereas like 4 years ago, people were going crazy and screaming at Sony. So it's didn't take long for that one to turn over there. But as for Ghost of Yotei, I think it looks great. Visually speaking, it definitely looks better than that initial trailer they showed in terms of visuals. And again, the story, I mean, the revenge plot just works in general for basically any video game, I'd say at this point, but it does seem a little played out after what I just did with Assassin's Creed Shadows, also, of course, taking place in, like, feudal Japan, so we'll see how it differentiates itself, just kind of based on the fact that there's one protagonist, where I assume they're going to have a lot of the skills and abilities just packed in anyway. That alone could make it feel more streamlined and even more fun than what I played with Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I'm looking forward to it. Really enjoyed my time with Ghost of Tsushima, so I'm sure I'll get a kick out of Ghost of Yotei in October. And before we go to the comments of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, Sony is bringing back the 30th anniversary themes for PS5. If you turn them on, which system theme are you going to use? I mean, not shocking. The PlayStation 2 was number one. PS1, though, was the second. PS3 at third. And then, I mean, there's 5% of you out there who are nostalgic for the PS4. I appreciate you guys out there. So I think for me, I think I'm going with the PS3. I feel like the PS3. I don't know, something about the cross-media bar still sticks with me to this day. I think that's one of the best dashboards. That and the Blade system, but I really like the Blade system, that one being more nostalgic-driven, whereas I think just cross-media bar functionally is maybe one of the best dashboards we've ever seen. I don't know, let me know what your favorite dashboard is, though, down in the comments. But yeah, I think PS3 for now, although maybe I'll get in like nostalgic for the PS2 and I'll jump over to that, or the PS1. That's the other fun part. It's pretty easy to change, just a couple of button presses in the menu, and you can go back to the 90s or the 2000s, or hey, the PS4, get back like 7 years. And we'll finish up with the comments of the day. We'll start first with the members comment here. And this is from Resh, who says, DLSS looks like it's going to open the gates to a lot of impossible ports to come over to the Switch 2. Can't wait to see a game like Alan Wake 2 on the system at some point. I think games that are targeting 30 FPS will most likely be utilizing DLSS quite a bit, although hearing about Street Fighter 6 use it and cleaning up that 540p image quite a bit. It was to the point where people didn't realize it was 540p until they were told it was 540p. Kind of reminds me of a bit of Returnal, by the way. people didn't know it was a 1080p image until they were told it was a 1080p image, and then they got annoyed at it. So to me, it's like, if you can kind of trick just the overall like human eye and say, oh, this is 4K, and you go, okay, I guess. If it's not obscene in front of you and it's like, oh my gosh, look how blurry this thing is, then yeah, you can almost convince yourself that you are looking at a 4K image, even if it's like 540p to 1080p and then scaled up a different way. There's a lot of tricks that are going to be used, but DLSS, I think, is going to be a pretty big mainstay for third parties. Again, depending on what their frame rate targets are, but I'm kind of looking at that 40 FPS mode as a big deal for Nintendo and third parties, especially in handheld mode going forward, and that tied with DLSS might be the move for a lot of games. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day. This is from DS to Nerds. Says, we got a Gran Turismo movie. Nothing else surprises me anymore. That, I guess, for the Outrun movie, but the Gran Turismo movie, I will say, when I heard that they were going to do that, I said, that's an odd idea. But then they sort of shared that it was based on a true story about a person a bunch of people came together, really into Gran Turismo. One person won like the tournament, and they were then able to race actual cars, right? So like the idea there made sense to create a movie around, because it was one of those situations where you could get behind the main character and root for them, and they actually did really well just in real life. So it all fit together a bit better than Outrun, unless there's a true story that I am not thinking of, which I guess is very possible because that's what happened with Gran Turismo. So let me know if there's some like underdog story that I don't know about that's happened with Outrun, maybe in the arcades or high score stuff. I'm genuinely curious the direction they take for Outrun and making it at least make sense on the big screen without just turning it into a typical action movie that feels like it just had the Outrun label slapped on it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you're someone who's still scrambling around a bit looking for that Switch 2 pre-order. I'll leave the last minute Switch 2 pre-order guide that I made yesterday right down below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.